True, but easy for listening. I was able to do it. Easy for dancing. I'm not a great lover of cats. That's my fear. You're a disgrace, you are. Not me. That's my fear. You're a disgrace, you are.
Hello and welcome to One-on-One Shadowboxing. Today my guest is Jeff Williams, who is the president of the Swan Valley Ratepayers and Residents Association.
Hello.
Hi Jeff. Tell me something about the Swan Valley. Do we need to preserve these luxurious living conditions and atmospheres in the Perth Metro?
I believe it's critical because I think that many people use the Swan Valley as a recreation, not just the people who live there. When I was living in Dianella, I probably spent more time visiting the wineries than I do now living in the Swan Valley. Many people come to the Swan Valley for weekends for the restaurants, wineries, or the views and the parks. I think that serves a great purpose. It's a tourism attraction. It generates a lot of income for Western Australia from international and interstate tourists. It's unique. It is like Kings Park is unique. Kings Park had to be preserved. I don't go to Kings Park very often, but I'd hate to think of it not being there. And for the people who go to the Swan Valley, they may not go all that often, but I don't think they would like to see it gone.
Can you please read something out from a prominent premier of Western Australia, how he described in 1993 the Swan Valley?
It's a very interesting letter. I've used it when the Swan Valley is often under threat of development. There are often developers coming to try to develop the Swan Valley, and when I read to the City of Swan to support the current Swan Valley Planning Act to keep the Swan Valley rural, I often refer to this letter, which I think is well written. One of the most pleasant ways I know of spending a Sunday afternoon is to drive through the Swan Valley, pausing from time to time, sampling some of its delights, whether they be on of the scene of the vine, and then to return home refreshed with what some might call a day in the country. What surprises visitors to our city and what we take for granted is that the valley is so close to the centre of Perth. A day trip isn't complicated, we just hop in our cars and we're there. There are few places in the world that can boast that advantage. I believe the Swan Valley should be preserved. Generations of Western Australians have enjoyed its recreational offerings, and a new generation of overseas visitors are sharing them with us. We're only beginning to realise the tourism potential of the valley. It would be short-sighted indeed if we were to give it over to ribbons of housing. But the Swan Valley is more than a tourism opportunity. It is a unique rural opportunity within our metropolitan area. It has developed and vigorously defends its own personality. Our city would be the poorer if we were to lose it. 1993, Richard Court, MLA, Leader of the Opposition.
So that was the opinion of the Liberals in 1993. And in 1994, the Swan Valley Planning Act was introduced. So why was that, and what's happened since?
The Act is a very unique Act. It is a very good Act. It is so good that it has since been used as a starting point for the Margaret River Planning Act. And I know that it's recently gone over and been used in the Barossa Valley as a Barossa Valley Planning Act. It defines the land use, it defines the minimum lot sizes, and it provides the ability for people who support the Swan Valley in its current rural environment and viniculture and environment to fall back on a legal act of Parliament.
So that's definitely the most positive thing can happen to any suburbs or any cities in Western Australia having their own Development Act. So
I would recommend that to any other council, any other area of Perth, because they don't.
No, they don't have it, and I don't know if they can have it now or can, have such things pushed through Parliament. But despite of the fact having this wonderful act for protection of the land and the people living on the land, you feel and your association feel that you are under threat. Tell me some of the issues you're facing within the Swan Valley. Well,
the Act is not prescriptive enough to stop the opportunity for developers to apply. And of course, an inappropriate development application can go to the City of Swan.
Yes.
The City of Swan may do the right thing by it and refuse it on the grounds of the Act, but then that project proponent can then appeal to SAT. And SAT is a state administrative tribunal which has the final say on these things. The problem we find with SAT is that apart from being very hard to talk to, and they don't take deputations who oppose planning applications, only supporters of planning applications,
Yes.
is that they seem to only use the general metropolitan planning rules and ignore the Act. They don't lay the Act out and say, oh yes, this does breach the Act and we won't use it. They don't seem to put them side by side. They seem to home in on only their own guidelines for the rest of the metropolitan area, which of course doesn't have an Act. We have tried to contact the chair of SAT, Judge John Chaney, several times
And
without success. Well, in the sense he's responded to the emails, but we don't seem to be able to get an understanding of what I'm trying to ask.
yes.
And that I hope can happen in the future, because I would like to know what grounds does SAT put, or what value does SAT put on the Planning Act? None, some, and where we can go with this, because there's a lot of inappropriate developments seem to get through this process.
Practically speaking, they must follow the Planning Act because that's stronger than the guidelines what they got in their departments.
I would say that.
It's easy to interpret. So, Jeff, tell me, one of the big issues I heard, you got a sort of rock mine operating in the Swan Valley a long time now, and was not really any problem with that. What's the problem now with the
The problem
rock
is that
mine?
they're seeking a massive expansion into the Swan Valley. Now, they have a loophole in the sense that they are actually outside the Swan Valley Planning Act area of coverage. They exist on Red Hill, but they want to expand, and they've got a 100-year plan to expand, and in that expansion is to take the top of the hills off, so that we'll end up with a quarrying situation similar.
Top of the hill, the Red
The
Hill?
Darling Range. So when
The
you
Darling Range.
Yeah, Darling Range. There's already a quarry on the Darling Range. People know it, Gosnells.
Yes.
And we're trying to avoid that happening in the Swan Valley. This taking the top of the ridge off will bring the quarry into the Swan Valley to be viewed from the Swan Valley and further, all the way down Nangara Road, Alexander Drive. Will be seen almost to the coast. It's going to be a massive mine.
So it's got a very serious environmental issue.
It's a serious environmental issue, serious tourism impacts. How appealing would it be for a tourist to come to a winery area that's got a quarry clunking away in the background? So it worries the tourism industry. There are other organisations in the Swan Valley. There's the Winemakers Association, there's the Grape Grower Association, there's the Tourism Association, and the Horse Equestrian Group. They
Yes.
all are opposing it.
So what was
Huge,
the,
overwhelming opposition to it.
so what was the opinion of the Barnett government's environmental minister?
Well, it went through the process that the Hanson's Quarry had to apply through the EPA for approval to expand, and in that process it came out that they could, and it's been said publicly by Hanson themselves, that they could actually stay on their current footprint and continue digging down, and it's even a better quality rock, a harder rock. But of course
Which is
there's a
good.
cost. There's a cost of bringing the rock to the surface.
So making profit is not that easy then?
It's about money, and it's cheaper to blow the top and back out of a mountain than it is to dig down. So that's what they're doing. They're driven by money. So they put an application in the EPA, which much opposition from the community. The EPA did a fantastic job on it and wrote.
Then they carried out an assessment.
They carried out an
on
assessment
the environmental,
on the environmental
and made a
impacts
recommendation.
and the Aboriginal heritage issues, and there's a lot of those in the area that are going to be destroyed by this quarry. And they made a very good determination, saying no to the expansion. And
good.
the community is very pleased. I remember the local member, who's Frank Elbin, who's the Liberal member for Swan Hills, coming to one of our AGMs and announcing put the champagne on ice because the EPA put out a good recommendation and the minister will support it.
And what's happened?
The minister hasn't supported it.
Who was the minister?
Bill Marmion.
Bill Marmion.
Bill Marmion was the minister.
Oh.
And he, for some reason, has gone around and turned it around and opposed his own department's recommendation and come up with, yes, they can mine on the top of the ridge. He's reduced the size of the envelope, but it still is a problem to us. It's still going to be mining into the Swan Valley as far as we can see.
So Bill Marmion was acting like a mining minister at that time when he was an environment minister.
Well, it's probably worked well because now he is the mining minister.
Oh, that's a good goal.
So
That's a good goal.
So perhaps it was a good career move on his part because he is now the Minister for Mines.
So he don't mind the mines now.
Yeah, well, now he would definitely be a supporter. We need to talk to the new Environment Minister and hopefully have some sense. I will approach the local member, Frank Elbin, it's his government, and hopefully he'll be able to facilitate a meeting with the current new Environment Minister and we'll see what that person's position is.
frankly saying, this whole expansion of the mining is threatening the local environment and the residents.
He's supportive of our position.
What's the points? So what's the points you are, or the residents, or your association is opposing to the extension of the mine?
Well, in simple terms, we don't mind them being there. We don't mind them mining their rock. What we want them to do is not to be visible from the Swan Valley.
That's simple.
Simple as that. Just not be seen from the Swan Valley.
Is that hard to deliver?
No, it's hard. If they pull back one of their boundaries by a couple of 100 metres, they will not be visible. There's a lot of rock there. There's rock all the way to Kalgoorlie that they could mine. There's a lot of rock in that area. They don't need to, and as I said, they could even stay, as the EPA said, they could even stay on their current footprint. But
so they're making cement, or what is the activity of the
it's crushed up rock. It's blue metal used for construction. They often say in public that that their product goes into schools and hospitals like that, as if somehow there's some kind of charity. But they're not a charity.
No,
they extract the rock for a great deal of money. They don't actually make the rock. The rock is there, so they're not actually a manufacturer. All they do is dig it up, break it up, put it in trucks and sell it for a handsome amount of money.
But also tell me, Jeff, where their profit is going?
The profit is going to Heidelberg Cement in Germany. That's the parent company, who have got their own issues with corporate governance. It is concerning. I went on their webpage recently, and I have a copy of it here.
And they are a very corporate responsible company.
They don't give that impression from their own website, because on their own website they've declared how they have recently been fined 170 million euros for collusive behaviour. Basically, from my interpretation,
by the European Union,
price fixing by the European community. Yes, have fined them 170 million euros.
So they desperately need some extra profit to pay the penalty.
Well, perhaps saving money by not transporting rock from the bottom to the top and just blowing the top of the hill out will save them that money. It is surprising. It is surprising that we're going down a path, such a beautiful area as the hills, the Swan Valley. Even if it wasn't the Swan Valley, the city will be able to see this quarry, and the rest of the metropolitan area will be able to see this. Allenbrook will be able to see this quarry. If you drive along Narrangara Road now, you can still see the residues of the previous Herne Hill quarry. They haven't been able to, as they call it, rehabilitate. And that's been there 20 years, and they still haven't rehabilitated.
Jeff, just a few words on the Aboriginal secret sites affected by the mine.
There's quite a few of them, and one of the most spectacular is what we call the Gogamit. It's been on a few of the local newspapers. That's the Gogamit there. It's a significant, it is apparently the second most important sacred site to the Aboriginal community. It's about 30 feet high, or around 10 metres, which makes it quite large, very heavy. As you can see from the picture of it, it is on a precarious slope. It is only just 200 metres from the current edge of the mine, and the mine is going in that direction. So one decent blast, and I think there won't be a Gogamit.
And what's the Aboriginal community's opinion on the extension of the mine?
Oh, they'd be devastated. They'd be devastated to lose the Gogamit, and they are very upset about the mine being extended. They haven't got, the Hanson quarry hasn't got Aboriginal clearance yet, I believe, but they are seeking it, and how they'll do that I don't know, because the Aboriginal community I've spoken to are dead against it.
On that note, Jeff, I think we're going to a break. But please stay with us, because after the break, we're coming back with more on one-on-one shadowboxing.